What are those?
Yes, I did. I said our first check. It's a squid. It's a squid. I said it.
Oh, you remind me of that guy in Amazing Noble Gumball. Wears all the sweaters.
Oh, yeah, that one is so weird. Like, how many sweaters does he wear? Is he hot?
Yeah, the guy who wears the Gumball.
I don't like that. I kept myself warm by doing running fast through the spot.
Good job, girl.
There you go. You can hold it with one hand. Okay.
They have it on.
I got like 4. I forgot to turn off the top. Is that your classroom?
Yeah, it's from a few years ago, but I made a shirt just because I thought it was a good picture.
You made a
Energy
shirt?
debate. Well, I mean, I had it made, you know what I mean?
That was my sister's.
Did it online. It was probably like $10 or something.
Oh, that's so cool. And it used to be for $10 online.
It's a nice shirt. I mean, it's kind of geeky, but it's like my kind of geeky, right?
Is that years ago?
Who's on it?
I don't know. I mean, I could figure it out by looking at the pictures.
Wait, let me
but
see.
it's probably been 3 or 4 years.
I know it's my sister's graduating.
Red Dormouse is there.
Oh, somebody said my face. Putty. Anything after Putty.
So it's this one. So 1, 2, 3. It was 4 years ago because your last year's is missing. So 4 years goes by.
Where is it?
I haven't gotten it made. It's an 8 by 10.
Where's ours gonna be if there's camp?
Yours will be underneath it. The calendar will go by, but nobody looks at it anyway.
It's still at September.
I know. Well, you're supposed to change it, you guys. I told you, I told you at the beginning of the year, in the closet is all the calendar stuff, but nobody's changed it ever, so I just leave it there and wait till somebody hopefully changes it. Or at least asks about it and says, oh yeah, I'd love to change it. I know. Well, it's on our TV every day,
Yeah.
but I'd like you guys to change it, but like I said, next year it'll be gone.
You're the White House.
You starting right away?
No.
I got Regan for 2 minutes.
Yeah, you could have her for 6.5 hours. I just want her back at 3:35. Do you want any of my other kids? I think Rachel's volunteering.
I'm volunteering. I'm volunteering. I'll volunteer with you. I volunteer with you.
He's probably doing a school ed lesson too.
He doesn't volunteer, but he does it a different way.
True.
Yeah, ours is better now. Right,
You never know.
Remember last year, Daniel Riddler? He changed, like, Mr. Coles was looking for a volunteer, and Daniel was like, I volunteer tribute, and he got chosen. I saw it from that Yay!
You got that t-shirt.
I have an amazing.
Did you do it last year?
Oh,
Good job.
yes.
Not put all the little tickets out there and the names, not one, not watching. Not New Orleans.
Hey, there's the winner.
Because they couldn't read my thing. I was like, they were like, Ryan. I was like, Ryan. I felt like they were going to say, no, John.
Oh, you changed.
I was like, yeah.
Oh, John.
But,
And the teacher.
yeah, I won $10. Here's
Nobody on my head. It's another ice. Wait, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. What? Yeah, I like this. What?
You want to take the spray and put it on the I see it next to the cream. No, the other Kleenex area, the one that's underneath. You see it? Wait. You see it?
No.
No thanks. No. Just no.
That's like blowing up.
No.
It is. It's like how solar panels. Okay.
Oh my God, she's in here. Oh, it was very interesting. He got shot. What are we doing? I see.
Do you guys have a paulsolars.weebly and an education.weebly open?
Yeah.
Good morning, Westgate Wolverines. Let's pause for a few moments of silent reflection. Pledge helpers today are from Sullivan's class. They are
Christian Fernandez, Luca Avasati, Caitlin Repack, Avery Lipinski, and Jeff Last.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is Friday, November 13th, 2015. After school activities today are Mandarin language stars for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in the LMC.
Additional announcements are, after the announcement today, there's a video from Juliana Jurgens at the Memorial Library. Today is Fun Photo Friday. Today is also Backwards Mismatch Day.
We'd like to wish a happy birthday to the following students. Miriam Anderson, Nico Haber, Olivia Vuka, Lucas Urbaniak, Katie Whalen, and Olivia Vuka.
Today is Fun Photo Friday. Do you know where we are? Here are the 3 clues. These red boxes first started to appear in the 1920s. The city is in the capital of a country that is on an island. This city has buildings dating back to the 1200s to new and more modern ones. Check the Westgate student website to find the answer. We are
Amanda Daly
and Braden Toll. Signing off. Westgate leaders, remember habit 4. Think, win, win. Everyone can win. Have a great Wolverine day. And stay tuned for the video.
Juliana didn't make it, no. But she's Julie from... She's the one...
Hello everyone, this is your librarian, Julie Jurgens. And I am here to tell you just a little bit about author and illustrator Ethan Long, who will be visiting your school. Ethan has illustrated and written a lot of books for children, including Fright Club, his newest book, One Drowsy Dragon, Manana Iguana, and Up Tall and High, which actually won the Theodore Geisel Award. Theodore Geisel is the real name of author Dr. Seuss, who is someone you might know. Now here's a picture of Ethan with his book Up Tall and High. This is how he'll look when he visits your school. He loves to wear a bow tie when he does school visits. Would you like to see a picture of Ethan when he was your age? Here is Ethan when he was a little kid. Obviously he's loved bow ties for a long time. Now I asked Ethan a few questions about what he liked when he was your age. First I asked him about books, and he said his favorite books as a kid were Harold and the Purple Crayon, Green Eggs and Ham, and 10 Apples Up on Top. Now I think it's really cool that some of his favorite books when he was a kid were Dr. Seuss books, and then when he grew up, he won an award named after Dr. Seuss. I think that's pretty awesome. He also loved to read the dictionary, which is a great thing if you want to be a writer. You should always be learning new words. Now you can't always be reading. Sometimes you just want to watch TV, and when Ethan watched TV as a kid, he liked to watch the Spider-Man cartoon, the Batman television show, and he really liked an animator named Tex Avery, who did some animation for Looney Tunes Studios, so Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, those kinds of characters. He also read comic strips in the newspaper, and his favorite was Peanuts with Charlie Brown. When it was time to eat, he loved grilled cheese and tomato soup, beef stroganoff, and pizza. And now that Ethan is a grown-up, when he's not spending time with his family or writing or illustrating books for children or working on his cartoon on the Disney Channel, he has some fun hobbies. He likes to collect animal skulls, and he is also a pretty good juggler. And in addition to visiting your school, Ethan is going to be at the Arlington Heights Memorial Library on Monday, November 16th. Starting at 6:30, you can stop by. He'll just be hanging out, drawing pictures, signing books. We'll have some of his books for sale if you'd like to buy one. And we'll have some refreshments, so it'll just be a good chance to spend some more time with an excellent author and illustrator, Ethan Long. So thank you for listening, and I can't wait for you guys to meet Ethan. Bye.
So, can you turn on at least one light? Oh wait, you know what? The light's coming back from the window. I could open the windows more too. That would probably be better. I closed them when we were blinding by.
Okay, anybody's seen a shirt yet?
Yeah, so just so you know, Fun Shirt Friday today, it's energy debates from 4 years ago. I've got a picture of my class, somebody against somebody. You know, I don't know which groups they were. And then it just says researching, confidence building, reflecting and synthesizing, learning in room 138. So, that's it. Alright. So kiddos, now that I'm ready, you got paulsolars.weebly and then education.weebly. Did you make a new one that says lesson 6 of nonfiction?
Yeah.
Yes. That's what we're on today's lesson 6. Did you drag in a picture yet or not yet?
I did.
It's arrow, huh? Nice.
Did you tag it reading?
Ooh, did you tag it reading?
I was just about to do it.
I always forget, so I'm proud of you guys for remembering.
I didn't, but now I did.
Alright. Well, kiddos, I'd like your attention while you finish up your last things that you're working on to get the blog set up. Today's focus is on author's purpose. Can you please process that and really know that you got to understand what author's purpose is by the end of the lesson? So, an author has different reasons for writing a book, or it doesn't even have to be a book. You have different reasons for writing an assignment, right? Sometimes, just like when we do reading, we talked about this just the other day, sometimes we're writing so that we can pass information on to others. Can you think of an example of a time you've read something where the author is passing information on to you? What's an example? Wait, let's get more hands, though. That's not anybody. We got 2 hands. Think of a time when you read something where the author is passing on information to you. Everybody's hand should go up. I mean, there's a million times. It can be simple. Just when's the last time you read informational text? Alex?
In like a nonfiction book.
Like what? Like, did you do one recently? It could be just you if you want.
Yeah.
So,
I read about birds, I guess.
great. So a book about birds, right? Isn't that about information? Okay, rather than like Big Bird from Sesame Street would probably be more like, although they do nonfiction in Sesame Street, don't they?
Yeah.
But if it was the biography of Big Bird, it might be less about information and more about like the character over the years. It still might be nonfiction, but the information might be lacking. It's mostly about his character. Addie?
For our energy debate groups,
Reading the packets, an energy debate. Isn't that for information? Good. Last one, Jeremy?
yesterday in school, I know we were reading Women Explorers.
Okay, Women Explorers. So that one was nonfiction, and that was to pass out information. Do authors sometimes, or writers sometimes, just want to entertain you with their writing? What's a time that they want to entertain you? What's something that you've read recently where you were just being entertained? You didn't have to walk away with any new information. You just were enjoying reading for reading's sake. What's an example, Shreya? Wonder. Yep, that was just for enjoyment of reading. Although I have some other purposes with it. I think it really helps us to see how to care for people and treat other people. So I have other reasons, but the idea is we should enjoy it. Tyler?
I just finished Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Okay, and Diary of a Wimpy Kid is just for enjoyment privileges. You're really not going to learn a ton of things. It's really just to laugh and enjoy reading. Last one, Lucas?
I can finish
This series of unfortunate events. Yep, all the different numbers of those. So, kiddos, there are other reasons though. The other day, and I want full processing if you can. I know you can type too, but I can see it in your eyes if you're thinking. All right. So, kiddos, there are other reasons, though, for authors to write. It's not just to give information and to entertain. Sometimes they might try to persuade you to believe a certain thing or to want to agree with them on a certain thing. So have you ever written a letter to somebody asking them for something? Have you ever performed a speech, which you don't think of it as a speech, but you go up to mom or somebody and say, "Hey, Mom, can't I please stay up another hour tonight?" Or, "Hey, Mom, can't I please go to this thing that you don't want to let me go to?" Or whatever. Like, haven't you ever tried to persuade them? If you just lead with, can't you please let me, that's a fine start, but don't you need to supply evidence and like good reasons and sound judgments for why they should listen to you? Persuasive writing is also done through speeches and through just discussions. So you're an author when you're starting to put together your thoughts to persuade someone to do something. All right, so don't be afraid to do that. How many people have tried to persuade someone recently? All right, Tyler, what's something you've tried to persuade?
Energy debate.
Oh, energy debates. We all tried to persuade, right? Was that your slogan? Yeah. Addie?
I wrote a letter to my friend Hannah telling her to throw toasters with me at Rachel.
Throw toasters?
Yes, it's a long thing.
Okay, yeah, I don't know that story. Juliana?
I tried to convince my parents to buy candy since we never buy candy. The only time that I get candy is in Halloween. And my Halloween day supply is running out.
And they were all 50 to 70% off in the last few days, huh?
I know.
That would have been a good time to try to convince them. Last one, Mason?
Last night I tried to convince them so I could stay up later and read more.
Yeah, sure. That's always a good one for kids. So what are some other reasons you can think of why an author might write something? And you don't have to think just authors. You guys are all authors. We're authors when we just try to have a discussion with somebody, if we start to organize our thoughts. So what are some other reasons what's the purpose for writing or speaking other than entertainment, information, and persuasion? Rachel?
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay. Jeremy? So what do you mean by that? So like just to complete it?
Yeah.
So our homework would be, the purpose for writing that would be to like get credit for it and hopefully to learn, but a kid's perspective would be to like just get it done so we're not in trouble. Right? Whether you realize it's also to help you learn, right? That's the point. All right. Addie?
If you're really mad, you can write to get your thoughts out.
Ooh, anger writing to get out your
I
frustration.
love that.
It was so powerful. I've written many emails where I was just frustrated and then deleted the email at the end instead of sending it. It's very, very helpful to just get that anger out, but then not send it. But you run the risk of accidentally bumping the button. So when I'm writing it, I think I'm going to write it and send it to the person. But then I realize, well, I've got to calm down first and try to keep my thoughts a little grounded. Mason?
Tell people about yourself sometimes.
Okay, so like that's information, but maybe it's more biographical information.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So kiddos, there's lots of different reasons to write. There's lots of different reasons for reading. Today we're going to look at the book called Arrowhawk, and we're going to try to predict what this purpose is of the author's purpose, and we're going to learn about the point of view that the author uses. Kiddos, there's 2 point of views I want to focus on today. First person and third person, but don't ask about second person because that's a long discussion. All right, so first person is when the narrator is part of the character of the book. They say I, me, and my in the story. I, da, la, 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 la. So Augie was a character in the book, and the book was told from Augie's perspective at different times. So that was first person at different times in the book. All right, and it was first person for all the characters. But some books are told by a narrator that tells us about the characters. So the narrator isn't a character in the book at all. They're just someone reporting what's happening. So we're going to study those 2 today. We're going to try to figure out first person or third person, and we're going to decide if Arrowhawk is a first person or third person point of view. All right, and then at the very end, we'll summarize why we think the author wrote this book, and we'll talk about point of view and an author's purpose one last time. All right, Juliana?
Sorry. This kind of off topic, but we're having the energy debate today, right?
I'm sorry?
Kind of off topic, but we're having the energy debate today, right?
Yeah, right after this. So kiddos, I'm going to read the book, but we have to do our before, during, and after reading strategies. Can you please glance at the poster? It's new to us. Remember to set a purpose, preview, plan, prepare, and discuss. Our purpose is to know the point of view and the author's purpose of this book. That's why we're reading it. Previewing it, look at the cover, flip through the pages.
Probably don't read the little thing at the beginning.
Right, we ruined it last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
By reading the slipcover.
We should read that last.
And plan, prepare, and discuss. I just gave you the plan by saying in the middle we'll do this and at the end we'll do this. The only thing I haven't told you is that you're doing stop and jots while we read today. There's no spots to stop for me today. So it's all you doing stop and jots. So I want you to get maybe 3 good stop and jots. I don't want a list of like 10. Remember how I want like 3 good ones? Maybe 4 good ones, but don't do like 10 little ones. Those aren't helpful for me. Mason?
I got a question. So are we still doing the before reading, after reading, and after?
So when a teacher tells you about before, during, and after reading strategies, those are things that you're supposed to do for the rest of your life, but you do them quickly and kind of unconsciously, meaning you're not even aware you do it. You pick up a book, and you kind of should flip through it at the beginning and wonder a little bit, like, I wonder what this book's going to be about and like what kind of book it is. You're just supposed to do that. It's part of the metacognitive process of reading. So metacognition is thinking about your thinking. So I want you to just think about like, I wonder what this book's going to be about. I wonder what the author's purpose is. But you don't say that to yourself. You just kind of take this book as a whole and say, I think I'm going to read about a hawk today. I bet you it's probably nonfiction. And maybe they're going to try to teach us something about hawks. That's what I kind of want you to do when you pick up a book. Okay? Do you guys get that at all? Yes. That's what I do when I'm like looking at the store to buy new books. I look through them and I say, this one's about a hawk. Do you think my kids are going to want to read about a hawk? Maybe. So maybe I'll buy that one. Maybe if I see it's something that I don't think my kids would like, I'll say, no, I'm not going to buy that one. Tyler?
Shouldn't you put like readers of nonfiction?
I liked when people have done that, where you copy and paste the purpose of the lesson. I like that. But whether you do it or not, I'm not grading you on it or anything like that. I think it's just a good addition. All right, do you guys see all the questions, though, that we have at the bottom today? Yeah. Did you copy and paste those already?
Yeah.
All right, I think 1 or 2 of them we could answer already. Yeah. Let's see. So let's see, it says, topic, type of nonfiction, point of view, information the author really wants us to know. So I guess here's what I'll say before I start reading, and then we got to really just start reading. We can answer all these questions at the end, but the purpose of knowing the author's purpose is so that you know why you're reading the text. This is a nonfiction text, and it's going to teach us some things about hawks through a kind of a story format. You should know that ahead, so that when you read, you're going, what can I learn about hawks through this story that I didn't already know? Do you sort of get it, guys? Mm-hmm. Doing all these questions at the end isn't as valuable as trying to figure them out before you read. Because then while you read, you'll get more out of the reading. Are you sure you get it, kiddo? All right, I got to start reading, though, because it's a short lesson today. All right, Arrowhawk by Lola M. Schaefer, illustrated by Gabby Swiatkowska. I won't read the cover. Last time it messed it up for us. All right. Stop and jots. Everybody knows what a stop and jot is, right? And they're going to do at least 3 solid ones, yeah?
Yes.
All right, please don't. Can you just, with your neighbors, can you glance once in a while? You're not being mean, you're helping. So, like, if they don't have anything by page 12 or something, give them a suggestion, maybe. Do you hear me? Mm-hmm. Is it okay to talk during this while I read if you're giving a suggestion?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. All right, thank you. Here we go. Hawk, young and strong, soared high above an open field. His large eyes searched the dried grasses below. A mouse raced in and out of the stubble. Hawk swooped down, snatched his prey, and carried it to a fence post. There in the autumn sun, he tore and ate the mouse with his hooked beak. Graphic. Did you get a visual?
Yeah.
I just saw a mouse get torn to shreds. Whew. Twang! Out of nowhere, an arrow streaked through the air and pierced Hawk's upper thigh and tail. He screeched in pain. A flash of movement on his left signaled more danger. Stunned by the arrow, Hawk hesitated. Then he beat his wings, rose above his attacker, and flew into the distant trees. Hawk tried to perch, but the arrow snagged on small branches. He flew higher until he landed on an open limb in a red oak. Pain pulsed through his body. He pecked wildly at the arrow lodged in his thigh. Then he twisted his head and tried to push the arrow out of his tail. Blood seeped from the wounds, but the arrow did not budge. It was now a part of him. For me, this was action extremely quickly in the story. Normally there's a rising action of some sort. They might introduce a problem early on, but this problem is intense. It's like, that's strange to have that so early in a book, but I like it. I feel bad for the hawk. I like the quick action. It's hard to say, you know what, I don't really like this book, I'm going to put it away now. Like, you can't do it when it's so exciting right away, right? I mean, wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even care that much about hawks, although I think they're beautiful and I love seeing them in the morning when I'm driving to school. I see like one every couple months. It's really neat. But I wouldn't have thought I'd pick up a book about hawks. Remember how I feel about like the animal stories and stuff?
Yeah.
But it's nonfiction, so I'm already feeling like I'm learning some things. All right. Oh, sweetie.
On the cover it says a true survival story.
Yeah.
So it means that this hawk actually is
Yeah. This. Yeah. I guess I don't see it, but I believe you.
It's on the cover right under arrow.
It's not on my cover though, so you guys have an updated cover or an older cover. Do you know what I mean? When you get it from Google, there's all different kinds of covers for books. So. Yeah, I might have put that cover on, but I just do a Google image search, kiddos. I just do Arrowhawk and the author's last name to get a Google image, and then I put on like the nicest quality one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, all right. For 2 days and nights, Hawk rested high in the red oak. He only left his roost to scoop water from a nearby stream. Ignoring his pain, he cleaned his wounds by gently picking the dirt and bugs from the openings. He then preened himself by sliding his beak down the shaft of each feather and tucking it into place. Weary, he slept. By the third morning, Hawk was hungry. He spotted a black rat snake in the underbrush. He flapped his wings and glided down. Snatch! Hawk flew into a tree and held the snake against the limb. But when he bent down to eat, his beak kept bumping into the arrow. After 3 tries, Hawk finally pushed his head far enough to the side so that he could eat his prey. During the next 4 weeks, Hawk's wounds healed around the arrow, and he grew stronger. Then the days began to shorten, and cooler winds blew from the north. Hawk's instinct to fly south led him away from the land that he knew. He glided over harvested fields and busy barnyards. He sailed south over highways and rest areas. Sometimes he perched on poles or power lines, watching for unsuspecting prey. So there are some bigger words in here, and we did vocabulary yesterday with context clues. Remember, I wasn't here, but with the substitute, yes? Okay, so do you know what harvested fields are?
Yeah.
What kind of fields are harvested fields? Stephen?
Is it a field that somebody already took all the crops off?
Exactly. So it's like the biomass is left over, right? Yeah. Right? Isn't that right, guys?
Like they took all the
Yeah, they took the corn or whatever it was, and they left behind a lot of the stalks, right? So the harvest. And it'll eventually turn into compost. All right, late one afternoon, Hawk caught a mouse in a hayfield and carried it into a cottonwood tree. As he tried to land, the arrow wedged itself between the trunk and a branch. Hawk's right foot twisted backward. He could not move out of the tree. Hawk flapped his wings several times, but he was still stuck. He pecked and jabbed and pulled the arrow with his beak, but nothing. Then, gathering all of his remaining strength, he beat his wings and pushed with his feet. Crack! Hawk's lower right leg snapped. At the same time, the arrow bent and the tip broke off, but pain shot through Hawk. But the push had been enough, and he was now free. He had to break his own leg to get free from his tanglement. Yeah. I didn't know that animals could do that. That's new to me. Hawk flew up to the top of the cottonwood. Not only had he broken his leg, but he had reopened the arrow wounds. Fresh blood trickled down his body. he was exhausted and hungry. He had dropped the mouse and was too weak to hunt again. Before the sun set, Hawk was asleep. Hawk awoke to cooler winds and pelting rains. His broken bone had not punctured the skin, but the leg was painful under his weight. Hawk winced every time he moved, so he only used his left leg to land and perch. For the next 2 days, he took shelter in a grove of white pines, and gradually the bone began to mend. On the third morning, Hawk flew out into the gray sky. Even though the arrow continued to weaken him, there's the arrow, he traveled south for 5 miles before he stopped. He searched for a remote tree to perch, but all he saw were buildings, cars, and people. Hawk rested on a telephone pole, and from this lookout, he spotted a field. Near dusk, he circled the open area and found it teeming with mice, which were easily caught. Later, he settled into a tall oak in a woods on the other side of the field. But every flight, every landing, seemed to tire him more. Hawk closed his eyelids and slept. Cold rains blanketed the area for the next 5 days. Chilled and hurting, Hawk remained in his safe roost. Finally, one afternoon, the sun broke through the trees. Still weak from the arrow but hungry, Hawk left his perch. He was gliding over the field, now full of standing water, when he heard the chirping of birds close to the highway. Hawk flew ahead and saw a covey of sparrows near the ground. Covey. What context clues tell you what covey must mean? Hawk flew ahead and saw a covey of sparrows near the ground. What do the context clues tell you, Logan?
Like a group.
Yeah, right? Like a group of them? Yeah, good. That's what I get out of it, too. They fluttered and bumped, one on top of another. If Hawk could capture a bird, it would be his first meal in days. On silent wings, he dove, talons ready. Just as he reached for his prey, invisible net loops entangled his feet. Hawk screeched loudly again and again. He couldn't reach the sparrows and he couldn't fly away. Hawk beat his wings faster and faster, and the more he struggled, the more his talons and feet became twisted in the snare. He fought, he screeched, he pecked, he flapped, and flapped, until, and it's ... so that for me is dun in my head. You know, until ... dun. Until darkness surrounded him. The fight was over. Every muscle relaxed as Hawk's head was covered, and he was taken away in a warm box. So this is where inferring starts to happen. I started doing it on the previous page with the net, but you should start inferring. It's still predicting because I don't think you have a lot of details yet. So we want to infer with evidence soon, though. So start thinking about what must this be? I think I know because. Okay. And I know you're typing some stop and jot, so that's great. This is a perfect time for a stop and jot if you have an idea. And you can use picture clues in your stop and jot, right?
Yeah. Hold on.
There's a picture clue right there too.
When the hawk went to get the other birds, they were in like a field, right?
It was unclear. They just said he saw them and they were easy pickings, and so he went to go get one, but then he got snared in a net. So you've got to, like, you couldn't do much then, but now you should start inferring on this page. As I start to read this, I think there's some new details. I'll give you the details. You can add them to your stop and jot if they're helpful. The fight was over. Every muscle relaxed as Hawk's head was covered, and he was taken away in a warm box. Later, gloved hands held him high, and he again beat his wings, struggling for freedom. But a firm grasp carried Hawk inside a building where an anesthetic helped him slip into sleep. Anesthetic? Do you know that word?
Yeah, I know what it is.
Jeremy? And it's a medicine that helped him slip into sleep. So this is what you get before you have surgery or before you're, when you're at the doctor's office. If even the dentist, they give you anesthesia or an anesthetic right on your gums, right? So an anesthetic helps him slip into sleep. So now I'm starting to get more ideas of what must be coming, because I'm using that anesthetic and the gloves on the hands as some of my text clues. Did you use that for a text clue?
Yeah.
When he awoke, the arrow was gone. So when Hawk awoke, the arrow was gone. That's kind of like a, ooh, yay. And his wounds were bandaged. Hawk sat in a small cage facing the woods. Weak and sore, he perched motionless, watching songbirds dart in the distance. Later, a tray of food and a bowl of fresh water were set within his reach. Hawk ate and drank, and day by day he grew stronger. So now do you know what happened?
Yes.
Kind of, right? I tried to get you to infer it before it happened, but I started to read a little too far because this is my first reading of the book, because I didn't know either. All right. After his wounds healed, Hawk joined other hawks in a large flight cage. He had his own perch. He could flap his wings and glide from one end to the other. Between flights, he preened. Do you guys remember what preened means from earlier in the book? Cleaned his feathers and himself. Many of his feathers felt longer and fuller, and with the arrow gone, Hawk could now stretch and even groom his tail feathers. Yeah, that's good. I agree. Every other day, Hawk rode in a box to an open field. He wore leather straps that were attached to a flight line. Can you imagine what a flight line must be based on our visual? And if they took him out every other day to a field?
Or is it one?
So I don't know, but I picture they're probably training him to fly again so that he could be safe and released in the wild. And I guess the way they do it is they don't want to let him go just yet. So they're going to keep him on a string, maybe like a kite string. Let him fly, and then we can bring him back in so that he can still build up his strength in the cage until he's ready to go and be successful. They don't want to let him go too early because he might die out on his own if he's not ready. Is that your inference?
I would think so.
That's what my inference was for that one. So gloved hands tossed him into the air, and Hawk felt the cold rush beneath him. He rose, flapped, and glided toward a small stand of trees. He knew this feeling of freedom well, but his flight always ended when the line ran out and pulled him back. Every time Hawk crossed that field, his muscles grew stronger, and he flew faster than before, building up that strength. Early one cold morning, Hawk rode farther to another field, a field he knew. Gloved hands brought him into the sunlight. Again, Hawk was held high. His leather straps were cut and fell to the ground. Hawk felt the north wind brush his face, and he heard a voice, "You survived, Arrowhawk. Fly home." Familiar hands tossed him gently into the winter air. Hawk flapped his wings and skimmed the earth. Then he beat his wings harder, rose, and flew over the trees. And straight as an arrow, you get the strange connection there, Hawk soared into the wild. And that's technically the end of the story. So this is just the epilogue. So I'll read it, but maybe I shouldn't read it yet. Let's get our answers to our questions first, because we'll lose the whole story otherwise. Let's not lose the story. All right, so kiddos, what was the topic of this book? It's pretty clear, but what was it? You could be general or you could be specific. Either one is okay. Who haven't I called on today? Pretty much the same people. Audrey?
It's about a hawk trying to survive.
About a hawk trying to survive? Good. So you could start with hawks, that's general, but isn't it a little bit better to say something like about a hawk trying to survive? Maybe a hawk's journey, or a hawk's near-death experience, or how one hawk was saved. Aren't all these a little bit stronger than just hawks? Okay, so think about that. Put something that works for you. Now, type of nonfiction. Remember, you learned that one in the first nonfiction lesson. We had different kinds of nonfiction. Was this biographical? It kind of was, but not in the same sense that we mean. Was it, hold on, I want to say the other one that it's not. What's that other one called? Was it called reference nonfiction? Was it reference nonfiction? No. That's where it's just like information, questions and answers, pure facts. No. What kind was it? Raise your hand. Cassidy? It's easy for you to say. Literary nonfiction, right, everybody? Yes. Can you type that in for our type of nonfiction? It's literary nonfiction. And then the point of view. Was it first person, where the narrator was one of the characters in the book? Or was it third person, where the narrator was telling us about the characters in the book? Which one was it? Aiden?
Third person.
Third person. Good job, kiddos. I know I'm going a little fast. I won't go too fast when we get to write a lot of stuff. So, the next section says, information the author really wanted us to know. What did you get that you think the author hoped that we would have learned from the end of this book? What do you feel the author really wanted us to know about? Ryan?
How harsh life is for hawks, and how, like, I don't know.
That's fine. So that would be one of your bullets, how harsh life could be for a hawk, right? That could definitely be one of them. Regan? The resilience of a hawk. Even though humans interfered, it was a human problem to begin with, you know, so, but yeah, maybe the resilience of a hawk, the ability to come back from some struggle, that would be fine. JJ?
Maybe how a hawk gets food.
How a hawk gets its food, and what food it likes to eat. We talked about mice and birds and snakes, right? Oh my. Mice and birds and snakes, oh my. What else? I'd love some hands from people who haven't talked yet if we can. Alex?
Like the hawk was really hurt and needed help.
So they wanted us to know that sometimes humans, maybe the author feels that humans should interact when possible to help wildlife, especially when it was a human error to begin with.
Yeah.
You know how there's that struggle, there's that debate. You know, should we interfere with nature or shouldn't we? I don't know how I feel, but I do feel like if humans shot it, we should fix it. You know, it was our fault to begin with, but that's my feeling. Russell?
What they do to help the hawk heal and make it stronger.
So we learned a little bit about the process of helping heal a hawk, right? They go in, they do some surgery because they knocked the hawk out. They had it stay in a cage for a while and build up its strength. Then they did the whole outside of in the field with the ropes. Juliana?
How this hawk was really brave and fighted death.
How it fought death?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the hawk, was willing to break its own leg in order to survive.
Yeah, and the who thinks, especially if you, imagine that you got speared with an arrow, you'd probably just fall to the ground in pain, and this hawk just, flew, and, actually, chewing it all in flesh.
It's interesting how animals can overcome adversity. That's pretty true. Addie?
Have humans interfered with wildlife?
Yeah, I bet you that was part of one of her main purposes was, do you see how much this poor hawk went through because of human interference? You know, the original shot with the arrow. And maybe the hunter wasn't even aiming for the hawk, but probably was. But why would you shoot a hawk? You can't really eat a hawk.
Yeah.
You know, so somebody shot that hawk, and probably for not a great reason. Stephen?
How some people can be nice to wildlife, such as hawks, and some people aren't.
Yeah, somebody clearly was trying to trap that hawk to help it. That net had to have been set up somehow as an attempt to trap that hawk to help save it. I don't think it was an accident that hawk flew into a net, and that there were vets right there to take care of it. I think they might have seen the hawk struggling somewhere and hoped to trap it somehow. That's just my inference, but I don't know. That's my belief. Ryan?
Just to add on to what you just said, maybe that hunter that's been causing a little bit of commotion with the arrow set up that, and
Do you think?
but that's pretty unlikely.
I don't know.
But he did fly south, so that's probably.
There were, it was several miles away. Juliana's?
I feel like we disagree. I think it was just a hunter, like Mr. Hunter maybe like looking for a deer or something, and set up a snare, and then the hawk just happened to get in it.
Well, that snare was for birds, though. It was a net that was
Yeah, you
above,
can't
like a
capture
sparrow cage of some sort.
Oh my gosh, you're weird.
No, whatever.
I don't think it's aimed specifically
All right.
at the hawk.
That's fine, guys. You guys have some great points. But let's finish our last point here. It says, so what's the point? Summarize. What message does the author really want us to take away from the text, or what was the author's purpose in writing this text? So we've heard all of the things the author wants us to know. What do you think was her main purpose for writing this text? And you just do your own, because we can all have a different opinion. But what do you, if you were the author writing this book, why did you write it? Other than to sell books, what were you hoping people would, get out of your book? You write that for the last one, and then it's time to transition after that to our energy debate. But it was a good discussion, guys. It was a good book. Don't forget to tag it reading and then publish it live. Kiddos, you know the books are in here if you ever want to look at them or borrow them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Actually.
If you borrow it, just remember to put it back so that if we need it for something. You guys do a really nice job during school-wide lessons, so thank you for always being great.
Time to transition to energy debate. You are so welcome. You are so
There's no reflection questions, or was that?
No, yeah, there's plenty of reflection in the activity and stuff, so I don't add
one
anything.
type of fighting that will be participated in Mr. Slaughter's. You have the chair. You have the chair.
You guys are choosing.
I said you take.
So Ryan and Aiden, I think Eddie did a gimme five, but I missed it too. So can you do it one more time, Peter?
Yeah. Let's play it over the computers now because yesterday we were kind of late.
Oh, you know what? No, wait, we don't have the. Kiddos, I think Brady just said it, but we don't have the cart for energy debates. So if you've got a laptop from there, please put it away. Thank you.
No, there's only three. One kid thinks there's people